I'm Patrick Lancaster, and right now we are in the Kherson region of Ukraine. And we are about to get into a BRDM-2 that was captured by Russian forces from Ukrainian use, the Ukrainian army forces. And they're going to be taking it around today, giving out humanitarian aid in these frontline villages here in the Kherson region. Now the Kherson region obviously is controlled by the Russian forces, and we're here just to show you everything possible we can show you on the ground here of what's really happening, because you're not going to find this anywhere in the mainstream media. We just show you the facts on the ground, what's happening, what the people think, and what the military's doing. So please like this video, share it across all social media, and let's show the world together what's really happening. Subscribe if you're new. And remember, we're independent, crowd-funded journalists. You can support our work with the link on the screen or in the description. Here we go. Okay, here we go.
Поэтому и качаем. Что там? Стопа.
So.
Да, есть все.
And we're off. And we're told we need to be in this armored vehicle because there's a good chance of incoming fire and artillery today. So the Russian army is being as safe as possible for us here today. Where's the button? I don't even see a button.
Don't touch.
We don't do this. Where? What's it do? It shoots?
Yes.
So we're told we shouldn't press this button because it fires the gun. Alright, we made it to the first location. You might remember this. This is a location where there's a family of 8 that's living here under fire every day. And we made a big promise to them, so we're also going to give them a little update on how the search for their mother, their elderly mother's heart monitor battery and operation is going. We've got some good news for them. Not the easiest to get in and out of these things. Alright, here we go. Room. Здравствуйте.
Да все нормально, мы им показали, все хорошо, там просто этот электроспуск не нажал.
Спасибо. Спасибо, большое вам спасибо.
So we're here at the house we were at before, where there's the family of 8, as you can see the children playing on the BRDM. Russian forces is giving out a little bit of humanitarian aid for them, as we're going to go see a couple other families. But we especially wanted to make an update on the promise we made before here, because this woman here needs a battery for her heart monitor, which requires an operation, and there had no batteries in her son. So мы хочу говорить, мы в принципе уже процесс нашли это батарейка. Да, и скоро это будет тут. This is a friend of ours, a colleague, a journalist, Roma, that has helped us try to locate the battery. Можно представиться себя?
Роман Спаньков, военный журналист.
И вы сделали много гуманитарий, да?
Да, мы с начала операции возим гуманитарную помощь сюда, и медицинские товары, и товары первой необходимости раздаем по больницам и просто по адресной доставке для мирных жителей.
Прикольно. И как вы думаете, могу решается она проблема, да?
Конечно, да. Мы уже передали нашему штабу, который находится в Москве. Они подберут либо в России, либо желательно в Симферополе, чтобы быстрее была доставка. И мы передадим до Армянска, там дальше наши волонтеры положат машину, ну и довезут уже до Херсона, а из Херсона уже будем передавать сюда своими силами, либо я довезу, либо кто-то из моих там друзей, коллег.
Ага. И какая организация это?
Это как Роман Спаньков, просто я помогаю. Организации как таковой у нас
просто-
нету, да. То есть это люди, которые мне помогают, мои единомышленники, и мы как частные лица работаем здесь.
Отлично. Well, so he's gonna help take care of her problem. Когда вы думали, это все будет?
Ну, максимум 2 недели, учитывая логистику очень сильно растянутую, потому что Москва, Симферополь, Армянск, Херсон, сюда. Ну, я думаю, постараемся в течение недели привезти.
Отлично. So it seems like her problem is gonna be handled. Понимаю, через, может, 2 недели максимум будет батарейка, и все будет хорошо. Будет операция.
Через 2 недели, да, вот так.
Да.
Да, хорошо.
So,
Хорошо, спасибо вам.
да.
Спасибо.
И это, в принципе, много это
я
Рома.
благодарю вас.
Да. So she's gonna live because her battery was almost done. Need to change it every 10 years or so, they said. So we're on to the next story. We promised we'd make sure this happened, and of course, when it actually happens, we're gonna give another update of the full fulfillment of this promise. So now we're gonna be off to another family here and continue the report. So please like, subscribe, and share.
Желаю вам здоров'ячка і успіхів самих найлучших. А здоров'я, знаєте, скільки я вам желаю? Океан здоров'я, а море лучших пожелань, щоб у вас усе було добро. І здоров'ячко, і діточки ваші, і ви, і щоб вам на кожному шагу тільки добро було. Хай Бог вам помагає.
Спасибо. Все будет хорошо. Спасибо большое.
Дуже.
So, до свидания. There's some more aid that's coming from the Russian forces. So we're feeling the situations as it comes here today. So it seems like there's a lot more aid that was coming to this family than what we originally thought. All these packs and these cans over here. The Russian forces are going to be going to other locations, and we are going to end this report here. But this was a nice little quick look into the situation here. Luckily, it's been quiet today, no shelling, but we were able to give this woman the good news about her operation battery that's going to be coming for a heart monitor, and they were able to get some aid. A lot of candy for the kids. 5 kids and 3 adults. I think this is going to be good. So we're going to wrap this up, as I said, and also the kids got to play on the military equipment, so that was cool. So please like this video, share it across all social media. Remember, we're totally independent crowdfunded journalists. You can support our work with the link on the screen and in the description. And don't forget to check out Roma's channels. All those links are going to be in the description as well.
Есть дальше. Есть, да? Брюка.
Помогал кто-то, видишь?
Рана щілиноподібної форми.
Ми їх оглядаємо, представники СМЕ або експерти їх оглядають, потім криміналісти або представники Нацполіції описують. Група під керівництвом Харківської військово-цивільної адміністрації голови, група, в якій я голова цієї військово-цивільної адміністрації, вона підписує ці акти. Буде два копії акту, один екземпляр акту залишається у військово-цивільній адміністрації, другий екземпляр акту з тілами відправляється до Києва, а потім буде проходити або обмін, або ще щось. На даний момент сказати більше нічого не можу. У деяких, якщо є якісь ідентифікувальні признаки, татуювання або якісь іконки, або якісь хрестики, тоді так ми можемо впізнати. У багатьох з них є шеврони, але у багатьох з них нема документів. Документів, будь ласка, із 40 тіл десь приблизно, може, 5-6 чоловік.
Видишь? Он был в черном.
The 31st Guards Air Assault Brigade paratroopers were among some of the first Russian soldiers to see action in Ukraine when they fast-tracked onto the tarmac in Hostomel on February 24 and fanned out across runways, hangars and airport buildings. That morning hundreds of paratroopers from Russia's 31st Guards Air Assault Brigade boarded helicopters they thought were bound for a training ground in western Belarus. But once the units were airborne, senior officers turned to the men to tell them that they were actually at war with Ukraine. Instead of Grodno, they entered Ukrainian airspace on their way to Hostomel Airport near the capital city of Kyiv. The troops were fucking shocked. People turned gray, especially considering we took fire in the air, said Nikita Ponomarev, a paratrooper later captured by the Ukrainians. Ukraine offered a spirited defense of Hostomel despite the scale of the Russian attack, ultimately preventing Moscow's forces from capturing the airfield. A deep thrust behind enemy lines is typical of airborne forces in the early days of a war, according to military analyst Rob Lee. They're used to seize airfields and really important terrain features and targets. If the attack had been successful, Russia would likely have used Hostomel's long runway to fly in additional units and supplies on huge Il-76 transport aircraft. But it turned out to be a bad miscalculation. While the threat of Ukrainian air defense systems prevented Russian transport aircraft from flying into Hostomel, Russian ground forces dug in around the airfield and waited for reinforcements that they thought would be brought overland from Belarus. But much of what we know about the dynamics of the Russian attack on Hostomel comes from an interview with captured 31st Brigade paratrooper Ponomarev, who was subsequently interviewed by a prominent Ukrainian blogger who posts videos with Russian prisoners. Extra equipment and reinforcements were supposed to arrive within 24 hours, according to Ponomarev, but took significantly longer. After 3 days, it was still only us, he said. Even as the airport remained unsecured, Russian tanks and armored vehicles flooded into northern Ukraine, heading for Kyiv. In a dramatic address on February 25, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warned Russia would soon attempt to storm the capital. There was an ominous feeling in the air at Hostomel the next morning, Ponomarev recalled. Suddenly, Ukrainian artillery slammed into the buildings. The barrage lasted 2 hours, killing dozens of soldiers and destroying large amounts of equipment. There was nothing left, not even a turret, Ponomarev said. Almost nobody survived that day. Russia has been reticent about releasing official casualty figures or confirming deaths to relatives from the start of the war, making it impossible to know how many men from the 31st Brigade died in the fighting at Hostomel Airport. However, Ponomarev estimated at least 60 soldiers were killed. Eventually, Russian commanders decided to withdraw from the airfield. Stationed in the Volga River city of Ulyanovsk since 1993, the 31st is one of the Russian military's few elite task forces. According to estimates about Russian military unit strength by analyst Lee, the 31st likely committed about 2,000 men to the fighting in Ukraine. Despite its initial losses, the 31st was quickly thrown into the Russian ground offensive attempting an encirclement of Kyiv in early March. The 31st Brigade's losses in the fighting in Hostomel reportedly included senior officers Colonel Sergei Karasev and Major Alexei Osakhin. The retreat allowed Russia to switch its focus to eastern Ukraine, where it has since sought to encircle Ukrainian-held areas of the Donbas region by advancing north from separatist-held Donetsk and south from the northeastern Ukrainian city of Izyum. Some of the 31st Brigade were redeployed around Izyum, 120 kilometers south of Kharkiv, according to a friend of one soldier in the brigade. The remains of the 31st Second's 2 battalion tactical groups fielded in the fighting around Kyiv were likely amalgamated into one BTG in the east, according to analyst Lee. Details about the movements of the 31st in the third month of the war are harder to establish, but the friend of the 31st Brigade soldier said parts of the 31st were involved in the Russian offensive on the strategic city of Severodonetsk in late May. In line with other reports from the front line, the 31st apparently suffered from low morale and inadequate supplies of food and equipment after it was redeployed to eastern Ukraine. And when the death of Corporal Artyom Fedorov was reported last week, Olga Burmistrova, whose nephew died fighting for the 31st in Ukraine, left a comment on social media site VK to pay her respects to the young man. Another from the 31st, Burmistrova wrote between rows of crying images. "Are there even any left there? Respects to the young man." Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.
Russian troops are trying to advance in Donbas, but with no success. Ukrainian armed forces go on a counterattack and are holding back the enemy's assault in Severodonetsk, near Toshkivka and Ustinivka. Russian artillery and multiple rocket launchers hit Lysychansk, Zolota 4 and Vrubivka.
In Lysychansk, it is dangerous even in the central districts. A local resident was killed yesterday on one of the central streets in Lysychansk after artillery shelling. A wounded woman was hospitalized immediately to Chernivtsi, and a number of multi-story buildings were also damaged. But the most damages that are reported at the moment are in Vrubivka and Zolota. 25 houses were damaged there. Serhiy Haidai, head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration.
Russian troops also continue shelling the Donetsk region. 7 civilians were wounded. The Russian occupiers launched a missile attack on the center of Kurakhove. A number of multi-story buildings were damaged. Look what they did to me here. We were out at the moment. My neighbor called me and said, "Come here, it's all wrecked." We came, everything was wrecked in Krasnohorivka, and here is wrecked. It's just someone who is taking me out right now. Local authorities say that this shelling is another reminder to residents of the Donetsk region that there are no safe cities or places in the region.
We inspect all damages and we feel it in the protocol. Then we will clear up everything.
Russian troops intensified shelling of Mykolaiv. Heavy fighting is ongoing in the region. The enemy shelled the Bashtanka community there. 2 people were killed and 1 person was wounded. The buildings of the district military administration and the district council, the city council, the stadium and the sports school were damaged.
The Kherson region is about 30-40 kilometers away from Mykolaiv, located in the southeastern direction. They come up, conduct shelling and go deep into the region again, so our artillery cannot reach them. As the Pion system they use is considered long-range artillery, our artillery cannot reach them. But as far as I know, our forces have already destroyed 3 of these self-propelled artillery systems and will continue to do so. Alexander Senkevich, mayor of Mykolaiv.
1 civilian was killed and another 3 were wounded as a result of the shelling of Kharkiv by Russian troops. Enemy shells hit residential areas and a number of buildings were completely destroyed. 10 residential and 2 administrative buildings were damaged. Russian troops also continued to attack the Sumy region. They use artillery to hit department buildings and residential areas. According to preliminary information, there were no casualties. Meanwhile, Russian occupiers are withdrawing in a hurry from the oppositions in the Zaporizhia region, the American Institute for the Study of War reports. It is considered that the enemy is doing so either to move its units to the rear areas or to strengthen the defenses in the Kherson region. Ukraine's defenders launched 4 attacks on a concentration of enemy forces the day before and, according to preliminary data, destroyed some units of armored vehicles and an ammunition depot of the enemy, the Operational Command South reports. Reported by Marina Stepanenko, Mariana Krechet, UATV News.
A counter-battery radar or weapon tracking radar is a system that detects artillery projectiles fired by 1 or more guns, howitzers, mortars or rocket launchers, and, from their trajectories, locates the position on the ground of the weapon that fired it. Ukrainian defenders have proven to be very successful in using this radar system, and the Russian invaders have learned this in a harder way. A dramatic duel between a Russian flamethrower rocket launcher and Ukrainian artillery somewhere in eastern Ukraine recently underscores a brutal truth about the fighting along that front. The duel played out during a video shoot by Russian propagandists. The video's host stood next to a TOS-1 thermobaric rocket launcher, bragging about the demoralizing effect of the 220mm diameter rockets. Thermobaric rockets are part of the mix as concentrated fires help Russian troops advance around Severodonetsk. Russia has achieved these recent tactical successes at significant resource cost and by concentrating force and fires on a single part of the overall campaign, the UK Defence Ministry stated. It should come as no surprise that Russian media chose to highlight a TOS-1 battery somewhere in the east in recent days. And it also should come as no surprise that the Ukrainians likewise took an interest in the TOS-1. In the video, the TOS-1 fires one rocket, standard practice, as the crew would wait to gauge the accuracy of the first shot before firing a full salvo. Less than a minute later, there's the sharp sound of incoming Ukrainian artillery, which apparently misses. The video crew flees. The TOS-1 fires more rockets. More Ukrainian artillery is audible before the video ends. It's unclear whether the TOS-1 survived the Ukrainian counter-battery barrage. There were factors working against the Russian launcher. The TOS-1, while powerful, lacks range. 6 miles is the maximum. 6 miles isn't very far in an artillery fight. Even the oldest Ukrainian howitzers can shoot farther than that. The latest American-made M777s can fire out to a distance of 19 miles. To be clear, Russian guns and rockets outnumber Ukrainian guns and rockets, especially in Donbas. But the Ukrainians have some advantages in a counter-battery fight, in particular with TOS-1s. Kyiv's forces far more than Moscow's forces have learned to deploy drones, including military models, off-the-shelf quadcopters and custom-made octocopters. Many hundreds of them. Drones can spot Russian artillery and help walk and return fire. The Ukrainian army also deploys American-made counter-battery radars. The radars detect enemy artillery fire and instantaneously, and precisely, trace it back to its origin. The Russian army has counter-battery radars too, of course. But the Ukrainian army benefits from steady supplies of fresh radars from foreign donors. The Ukrainians since February have received no fewer than 3 dozen new counter-battery radars from the United States and other foreign allies. The Ukrainian counter-battery system, dramatically on display in that Russian propaganda gone wrong, should improve in coming weeks as the first high-mobility artillery rocket system launchers arrive from the United States. A truck-mounted HIMARS can fire 6 M30 rockets out to a distance of 43 miles, well beyond the range of almost all Russian guns and rockets. Pair HIMARS with drones and radars, and you've got a highly effective counter-battery system. It's possible the TOS-1 in the video escaped the Ukrainian shelling. Pretty soon, however, dodging counter-battery fire could get a lot harder for the Russians. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.
Russia doesn't have the death penalty, and outside of Moscow, nowhere else on earth is this court acknowledged to have any legitimacy. But after a trial lasting a few days and their confessions to being mercenaries, Aidan Aslin and Sean Pinner were convicted and sentenced to death for terrorism by the so-called Donetsk People's Republic. A Moroccan man, Sadoun Brahim, received the same sentence. The two Britons were members of the Ukrainian Marines. They were captured in the fight to defend Mariupol. In January this year, I travelled to meet them in the frozen trenches near where they were captured. The invasion hadn't started, but it felt like it was getting more likely every day.
We've already had 2 guys injured on my position.
Both men knew their fighting for the Ukrainians was controversial, but both could prove they were professional, contracted soldiers, not mercenaries.
Yeah. I'm married a Ukrainian. I've got every much right to be here. And the guys, it's taken me a long time to integrate here. So the guys know I'm not, a war tourist or a war junkie. And I'm with an organised unit, I'm with the government, and I'm with a contracted soldier. Tried to steer away from that sort of volunteer unit and militia.
Sean, originally from Watford, was a section commander. He'd been living in Ukraine for 4 years. Back then, he couldn't have known how accurate his prediction on this war would be.
If they come across the border, we're outgunned. We haven't got air superiority. We don't have a naval fleet, very strong naval fleet. But Ukrainians fight, so we'll give them a bloody nose, that's for sure.
And they're coming close, you know.
Aidan Aslin from Newark was on a third tour with the Marines. He said he considered his life here.
My fiance is Ukrainian. I've got a house in Ukraine. I'm building a family.
I asked what it was like being in the Ukrainian military.
When I first came, guys were a bit suspicious, why are you here? Are you crazy? But after a while, I assimilated, learned the language. I still speak like a baby when I speak Russian, but I speak enough to get the message across, and also I understand a lot more than I speak. So now guys just see me as any other Ukrainian guy.
The convictions have been widely condemned and the hearings dismissed as a show trial. However, it doesn't mean that the Russian-backed separatist state leaders would not carry out the sentence. Neither they or President Putin have shown any concern about consequences for anything in recent times. Stuart Ramsey, Sky News, Eastern Ukraine.
An AZP S-60 57mm AA gun mounted on a truck used by US forces. Video of Russian TOS-1, a thermobaric MLRS BM-1 launcher being reloaded by a TZMT transloader in a Divik area. This heavy flamethrower is supported by a new TZMT reloading vehicle, which is used to transport and reload rockets. It carries a full set of reload rockets in the two pods for 12 rockets each. Video of Russian mortar fire Ukrainian position in the Holeks area. Video of Russian BTR-82 targeted while they were evacuating a casualty. Wait for next update. Subscribe channel Village Online Team. Love and respect.